guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited about today's video. So today I'm going to be redrawing this old artwork from 2016. I really think I improved a lot over the past 4 years, and I'm really excited to share with you guys my experiences from a few years ago and how much it is different from nowadays. Alright, so first let me tell you more about the original drawing. The original was actually a reference to Taeyeon's music video, In the Rain. She is a member of K-pop group Girls' Generation, and she honestly has a really amazing voice. She has a way of putting so much emotion into her singing, and her solo work is really good. I used to be obsessed with this song because it was just so nice to listen to when I was reading or drawing. And in the music video, she's shown filling up a fishbowl with water and glitter, so that's where I got the idea of her holding the fishbowl in the original drawing. I was also really into drawing galaxy and space stuff that year for some reason. There were actually a lot of drawings I made that year with galaxy themed elements. But yeah, if you want to check out the music video I based the original illustration on, I'll have the link to that in the description below. So moving more onto the materials I used, micron pens were used to do the line art, and like most young artists back then, I had myself a set of Copic markers. I remember I was really excited about getting the purple shade because I didn't have one beforehand, and I mainly got it because I had seen a video with some other artists using purple in the skin as shading. Shading with blues and purples was something I definitely did not understand a lot about back then, so I kind of just slapped those purples and blues over the skin tones without really thinking twice about it. Looking back now, I know that those colors were way too saturated, so it really looks like she has bruises all over her, to be honest. Not to mention, I didn't really know anything about the human form. I was way too stiff with my lines back then, and I wasn't really thinking about the inside of the body at all. In this new illustration, I was able to create a better pose because I now understand the human body a lot more. And I was looking at a bunch of references, which definitely really helped. I actually annoyed my little sister by making her pose for me, but you know, those are like the kinds of things that you gotta do to make a drawing look right. I think that this is such an important thing that I learned from being in multiple critiques during my time in art school, because people tend to notice right away when your form is really off or it looks weird, so always make sure you use references when you're drawing. You can't really make up a pose on your own without understanding how the form moves or works, and you can't really understand how the form moves or works without looking at it. This is a little side tangent, but I remember being in critique at school once, and someone pointed out that I drew the thumb on the wrong side of the hand. The moment that she had said it, I knew she was right and I cringed at myself. I was really embarrassed, but it taught me a good lesson. Always use references and never second guess when it comes to drawing the body. So if you want to get better at drawing the human form, make sure to practice and really understand the anatomy of the body. Honestly, this is something I'm still working on, but it is also something I think every artist will always be working on. The longer you draw, the more you realize that it's everlasting. You will always find something that you can get better at, and that is just part of the process of being an artist. So I drew the original illustration when I was a junior in high school. Back then I mainly used to draw realism, and I really enjoyed drawing realism, mostly because it was something that came really easy to me once I understood how to use the grid technique. And if you took art class, you might know what I'm talking about. What it is you pretty much print out a picture and then you draw a grid over it, and then you draw that same grid on a piece of paper, and then you use the grid on the photograph to copy it onto the drawing, if you know what I mean. Like, you use the grid so that you can see the littler parts of the drawing a lot better. I don't know if that made sense, but that's basically how I started to draw faces a lot, and I mainly used to draw famous people that I liked, and I drew like that for a few years. But that year in 2016, I was entering a new phase of my artistic journey. I really started to experiment with my style, and it started to really change a lot that year. I always wanted to find my own personality in my artwork, and I wanted to create characters that I saw in like animated movies and comics that I read. And I wanted to draw more things that weren't just replicas of photos I saw. Drawing something exactly the way it was just didn't do it for me anymore. I was growing as an artist and I didn't even realize it. I remember that year I was always frustrated all the time, especially when I would try something different from realism. When I wasn't using the grid technique or drawing something more than the face, my anatomy looked terrible. So drawing realism and getting compliments from my teachers and my peers really made me feel a lot more validated. I knew I wanted my artwork to be something more than a quote-unquote photocopy, but I only felt validated when I drew realism. Beforehand, I had fallen into mainly copying everything I drew, so I feel like back then my skill level with drawing the face was really high, but everything else I drew was at a much lower level, especially like the body, which really affected my confidence for a couple years, and I didn't really understand what I was doing wrong. Back then, I didn't truly feel like my drawings were going where I wanted them to go. Yes, my skills were good, but I couldn't figure out a good workflow for myself. It wasn't until I found a new spark a few years later that I decided to dedicate myself to things that I genuinely enjoyed drawing instead of what I thought others would want me to draw. And I think that really shows in my work now. What I wish I had realized back then is that being frustrated when you experiment is completely normal, and you shouldn't stop or change course when this happens. Believe me, I feel like I could have gotten much further than where I am now if I had just followed through with myself and kept experimenting. Don't stop because you're frustrated. It just means that you're getting better and growing. I think that this is something vital that any artist needs to learn and accept. I know this kind of started to get off topic, but I think it is important for me to share my thoughts and experiences with my art, because it might help others who are watching this. If you guys want me to make a whole video about a topic like this, please let me know, because I would really love to talk more about it. I feel like this could help a lot of artists out there struggling with loving their art and creating stuff that they love. Anyway, I want to talk more about the new illustration as well, because I learned a lot through this process. So in this new illustration, I worked digitally in Procreate, if you haven't already noticed. I switched to doing mostly digital art about a year ago because I can work a lot better on the go, and it's easier to make prints and stickers, which is something I really want to do in the future. But I still do have a physical sketchbook that I draw pretty much every day in. So I think sketching wise, I really enjoy drawing in a physical book instead of like on an iPad, but when I draw digital art, I really enjoy making the line art. That's probably my favorite part of the process. Not to mention, it's way easier to make colors when you work digitally because you pretty much have every color at your fingertips, whereas if you do something traditional like watercolor or acrylic, you always have to make that color yourself and keep making it the same color. However, there are some bad habits that you can form when you're drawing digitally. Like for example, you know, there's the back button where you can just undo and undo and undo whatever you want. I find that this is really a problem for me because I realized after watching the time lapse of this video I was too focused on the shading and I was struggling to make the lighting correct, and I think it's mainly because I didn't have a reference for the lighting, and that kind of plays back into what I was saying earlier about using references. But yeah, I was just way too into drawing the character than to think about the lighting on the character, so I think I really should have took a moment to go look at some pictures where the face is lit up the way it is I have in the drawing. But right about here in the timeline, you can see that I completely delete the whole shading process I had done beforehand, and it took me about an hour to do that whole process. So in the end, I really regretted just like deleting the whole thing and instead of trying to work through it. So that's something that you really don't get to have when you're drawing digitally, because you can just delete a certain layer and then put on another layer, which is completely different from how you would do something traditionally, because once you put something down, it's there and you can't take it off anymore. So I guess in a way that's a good thing for digital art, because you can always, you know, go back and change your mind. But if you're too much of a perfectionist like me, you could waste hours and hours of your time trying to make it look just right, instead of accepting that this is just a skill level that you're at. So talking more about the clothes, I realized that the purple in the shirt didn't really match the skirt anymore, so I decided to change it up into that blue color. And I kept her hair purple because I feel like it was an important aspect of the first illustration, so I really wanted to keep that into the new one. So yeah, we're reaching near the end of the video. Here I'm just adding a few more details in, putting in the last minute shading that I had to redo. And I gave her this necklace because I thought it would give a lot more of the space characteristics. And lastly, I decided to make the hair a bit darker because something that I do at the end of everything I draw in color is pretty much I squint my eyes and see if anything stands out, and I didn't really see anything stand out. So what this means is that the saturation throughout the whole thing is too similar, so that's why I made the hair a little darker. And yeah, we're at the end of the video, so here is the final illustration, and here it is next to the old one. I would say that I've improved a lot over the past 4 years, and I really have started to find my own personality and voice in my art, and it's really good to see that. So thank you guys for sticking with me to the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm gonna try to post every Friday from now on, so look forward to more videos. Alright, bye!